In the eerie glow of a Bobby's lantern, a cheaply made coffin was raised from its penultimate resting place. It was February 1915, and this was the second of 3 exhumations requested by detectives. The cadaver was that of 25-year-old nurse Alice Burnham, of Bride-in-the-Bath infamy, removed from her Blackpool grave for yet another post-mortem. Anyone who knows me knows I have an inexplicable affection for Alice. I often spend quiet moments by her unmarked grave. Alice was a bonny young woman from Aston Clinton in Buckinghamshire, the daughter of a coal merchant, a devout Baptist, and unusually ambitious for her time. She tried her hand at teaching, then worked as a nursery governess before finally becoming a general nurse. A move to Southsea to privately nurse an elderly invalid left her flush with savings, but painfully isolated from friends and family. So when a dapper chap named George Smith appeared, professing he was utterly bewitched by her, how her heart must have soared. But George Smith was no fairy tale prince. Arrogant, self-important, and first incarcerated at the tender age of 9, he grew up to be a charming predator. By 1910, leaving penniless women in his wake wasn't enough. He began his macabre career as the villain of the Brides-in-the-Bath saga. He'd marry unsuspecting women, whisk them off to a seaside honeymoon, insist on lodgings with a bathtub, and once his new bride relaxed in the water, he'd swiftly lift her legs or knees, forcing her under, drowned. On the 4th of November 1913, Alice became Mrs. George Smith. Her family were wary, and rightly so. By December, newlyweds Alice and George arrived in Blackpool, admiring the tower before settling into a boarding house. George complained it lacked a bath and was handily pointed to 16 Regent Road. There he took Alice to see Dr. Billing, a personal physician to Blackpool's mayors, who noticed she was short, pale, extremely fat, suffering from nothing more than constipation. How rude. Tragically, Billing would see her again far too soon. On the evening of the 12th of December, water began dripping through the kitchen ceiling, and George was heard shouting, "My wife cannot speak to me. Go for the doctor." Dr. Billing arrived, and he had the grim task of lifting Alice's lifeless body from the tub. Her death was ruled misadventure, accidental drowning. In a curious twist of fate, Alice and Dr. Billing are buried just yards apart in Leighton Cemetery. Smith might have gotten away with it, had his greed not driven him to repeat his crime. When Margaret Lofty died in suspiciously similar circumstances, both the Crosleys of Regent Road and Alice's father wrote to Scotland Yard. Smith was finally arrested in the February of 1915. His trial was one of the sensations of the 20th century. So much so, an effigy of him stood for decades in Madame Tussauds' Chamber of Horrors. The very bath Alice died in is displayed in Scotland Yard's Black Museum. In August 1915, Smith was hanged at Maidstone for the murder of Bessie Mundy, although the deaths of Alice and Margaret were used to show his cruel pattern. 3 innocent women, desperate for love, met instead with cold, watery deaths, and so lovely Alice lies in Leighton Cemetery, in an unmarked pauper's grave, forgotten by many, but not by me.